Omuruburi kubwatia nabo kurigirirwa na kiro muntu.
Emambiengia omorigereria bw'Ensoko no kwigena kwane buna andonsi asore ni gogendrete bya kwegokirie nemeroberio yaito kurugaiga Ensoko TV oboroso bwo muguse chinsa ninye chabono mambia chabutokire chidagika 15 nemo igoro ritko rya Jumatano chitariki 25 mutinyi o gatano na gatatu omwaka o 2026 omoroberi bw'Etorobini otachirense Omwanchwa omorigereria gukwarigania asenchira ya bene kigima erindo ikaranso ike tonyare ko batogo semania nabo igo tokumanyania ari agendete gwatika bwasore nabo igo chinsemo ao ime nabo igo iskoyense iretariane nkuru kwa Linet Nyambane karango kumanyinga omoroberi yoiga nigore live ase emitandao yaito yekerero ensemo ya Facebook nabo gotonyora buna Ensoko digital nabo igo ensemo ya YouTube eneki gwachire ase chinseme chubere erindo nyare ko bagukubwatia omoroberi yoiga karogo ikirororo nyare ko baguko like nabo igo go share link yiga erinde abantu abange basoime kokwarigania tuchako omoroberi bw'Etorobini kurbono gwika chinsa isano na mocho mugaso bw'eritkoria rero. Etorobini Omwanchwa omorigereria tokonyechakera konyemorekera kurugaiga ase kaunti ya Nairobi ase oyokorigia ekirogo ky'obugabana bwe kaunti ya Kisii Ezekiel Machogu oyiboigo kabeire omwaziri bw'echisemi aiga imeyense omeranire n'abamenyi babo Machoge abo ase bakwaneire chinchera barachi koroberia gose chinchera abamenyi abo barachi komosera omo Ezekiel Machogu ase ganga yayo koba omugabana bwe kaunti ya Kisii gukwana maega yege ikaro ekio ase bari gukwanira amangana ao bosibo bochori obonene nigo Machogu atebire emeroberi yae abegete kwene kibuna abamenyi be kaunti ya Kisii gochi konyora bare amagenderero ao ase batebire buna abarayi barororo wikabono gati baraikerani amagenderero nonye nabo nigo Machogu anyarete ko bagakomoche chisegi chichanyara ko bachi kwene kigwa sensemo yabo manyi asatebire nigo babwenerete komenya buno morembe ase boigo anyare ko bagagukwanira abasaye nabo igemeroberi abegete chingakiara chikwira obochori ne chinchera chiri arachikokonya abasaye obwo kwegendereria obugima bwabo
Malite ngoro kuigara ncheno Machoge kurumagena bo chiborabu watu igabuna tuaje bo Machoge ngima chiwodi chonse sap Machoge borabu chiwodinye Machoge jaje chiwodi sat mangana tu abu atare ro na luna professional se bandora ne doctor engineer lawyer chiarubu Machoge ngima egento tuaje kokora mangana yo mugaka Machoge tuaje ko soyo bisho bisho ndo Machoge bano muntu tuwate Machoge ndo watio kora ng'umontegerere wakora mangana agenderera ari kenyorogia boso muntu tutagete tutete serikali ya Choge tutari serikali y'ebibako
intokurugusi aba Machoge na ndengwa kangambuya monase nafasi twanyore yo gochediriana mangana kuhusu ese ya Kenya kolengia twensunatura ntwe wanegente kemonga intwe igo toko bwate shumano itokoro ku Fred Okengo Matiangi ase okubulie kerokyo president wense ya Kenya anyale ko the 60th president of the Republic of Kenya kiagera introducing gasi akorera saba Kenya se ingakia soa agakorbune cabinet secretary ne gasi keranete na ende nanyale kurungi yense ito ya Kenya egia kabere ntwasanga na bantu baminto ba Machoge igoro ye county ito ya Kisii no bokoreri wa Kisii county na ende tuanjera nanga n'abantu baito bonse kurukere kenyorokere constituency ntubwaterane kore tuburayi burarete obonchoreri naende borarete manufaa ase abanto ba Kisii County chi constituency chionse kianda banto baminto ba machoge borabu machoge chache banto baminto chi constituency chionse chiabo getutu banto baminto ba bonchari babo bashi banyari bari komoranche na South Mogiranga ase mwabeta tobwaterane erinde torenga umwaka ogocha nkoreta tore ararorekane ng'a namaya ase abanto baito be county ya Kisii naende twatebana korwa ntunyare gosanga mono kubwatera ntari Nairobi yaoka pamoja n'abantu baminto barenka ntunyare gosanga nturi kuramonde nturi gochegionde kiagera intuge ntokora rino morembe dento kende twateba nkeringa intwe n'abakenya bande mono baria bari neighbors baito abantu baminto Masai twabeire tokomenya n'omorembe twabeire tokomenya n'obwanchani twanyomanire endagera ase abagusi tokorema mono n'ekenyoro kia abantu baito ba Masai amang'ana aba n'amang'ana arenge y'abantu babere barwanete n'esababo bari kurwanira iga aria kiango ase ba nemanyekanete iga amakosa iga arenge y'abantu babere kera amakosa ari y'abantu babere eseria ya Kenya nebwanete kubwatibwa pengine ng'ore ngomochege ng'akia chaka erinde airu court ne court enyare gokora terikubwanete gokorekana kiagera pengine amakosa arorekanire ng'asaba babere kero kia rwarwanete ngikiabete igo tware kuboria abantu baito bagusi abantu baito kurwe community y'abantu baito ba Masai komoranche tube komorembe kiagera aritari makosa arenge ng'a n'abantu baito bonse ba Masai n'abantu baito bonse bagusi ari n'amakosa arenge y'abantu babere naende abwenete kwerera abo pengine oyo gosete airu court agambibwa ekina igo ntowe genete ng'a omorembe nobe kiagera omorembe noro okoreta obuya omorembe oreta amagenderero omorembe oreta endagera abantu baria kiagera ekero omorembe osaregete nonye endagera egekoba egente egekonyara gochoka egente ekene twagamba nkeri ng'a obokoreri bwensi kiagera ekaunti nebwate egasi enene egokora korwa oboremi korwa etugo ebirasi bia ECD amasomo chief village polytechnic ebiasara ebinto ebi byonse twabikwanire ng'a ekero twanyorire nafasi omwaka ogocha ing'aki tokoreta changamoto ase oboremi abantu baito banyare kwenyora chibesa ing'aki togokora amang'ana ekahawa ng'aki togokora amang'ana avocado ng'aki togokora ebinto byonse ebiasara ng'aki togokora ebinto bia echinyagitari biaitu chiaitu ng'aki tokwagacha ebirasi bia ECD kiagera oisa koba ng'a none teaching materials none curriculum yoka toetia abarimu ndio amabere mbuya lakini ebinto ebinde lazima bikorekane ng'a lazima tonyore priorities chetu right igo ebirogo mbiba gusie engima na kere ekenyoro abantu baito ba machoge banyore birogo birubwenerete abantu baito ba kurubo getutu abantu baito ba kurubo gerango kurubo nchari kurubo bobashi ng'akere nyomba ebirogo bera bimbitoke lakini egangene naende gochikoba kero twanyorire birogo machowe kera abeire gabana lazima ebinto bichenji lazima chinyagitari chiaitu lazima oboremi ebinto byonse echenji erorekane eriteba ng'a nabake twanyore ebirogo lakini omwananchi nsa aria obokoreri ngitwakoreri ndorora ng'a kweri etabauti yabeire abana baito na buchinguru chiaitu naende oisa kurigereri kere kenyoro abamurambaro bakire skuru bakore chi university abandi bakore chi TVET abandi bakorire chi skuru awao lakini asenge njeso yote ya Kenya chigasi chitaiyo kwanyora ng'a basoire pengine none mbali bali poda tari ng'a abandi mbabwenete kobokiagera oisa kuba kwana na barabwo na abana bakorete chi university abandi bakorete chi TVET naende twateba ng'a ase chi nafasi chiri togoteba mono economy ya Kenya nkietegemeete netegemeete oboremi na service industry nebiasara bike inga kitoko chigosegeta abana baito onyore nga twanyore chinafasi asoboremi commercialize modernize obolemi bwaito paka abando nyore nga nkonyora bari chinafasi yalia kiagera buna nale gotebarere kahawa chibese bwate gechiri nyinge sana nonyora ngo muntu gabwate ekwota yobolemo asimeke mete kidogo ikineji besa kinyinga omuntu asimeka avocado ikineji besa kinyinga value addition tubwende gokora tuli obutugi bwe chinkoko rero usako genda Kisi town gokonyora nga chinkoko nchiri kuri ugusi igo chikurwa Sunday school ikine opportunity bwate nga omuntu omokana abeka chinkoko 10 chigosarara chigera musini ikineji besa kiri kinyinga kubwa pengine kubanga bonsi bakogenda biashara bya boda chinafasi chiaba youth babwenda konyora chi contract 25% chi county asebono inga konyora bali gusemba konyora ikini chinafasi mache waguchi wakisanga nchiro abana baitu nyare ko bareta ase chinafasi chigotoka chegasi asaba youth baitu ase serikali ya machogu dasima chi CEO bali bakuru ku chi minister chi county chi CEC chi chief officer chi director batoko kiagera mbobwatu ngaino boisaine turanyare gokonyeka turanyare gokonyana kuhakikisha nga twasumire amangana serikali motwe igonga opportunities inchiro nelinga intura explore koranga nga kitoko bareta as opportunities chiria elinde tuchugo gochenjia economy je kwerende ye county tongeri serikali njabe getegendaria ekuru ku industrial park industrial park negente structure kobekwa amacharo estimero universities mamanyo wote universities tali abaindi tukuchikolia tali aba China tali aba Songo intu abanyene abantu baito bamachoge ba Kisi county baiche bachake biasare binana ali chi industry gete kiranyare go generate chigasi erinda abantu baito bakore uisha kurigirita bake substone rige na tubwato nerige na litali gutuka ando suru mwengo rige na riria riko bekwenjera gete tasmonyore nga abantu baita bange na abana baita bake banyore nafasi baranyari kwenyora chiyasa omorembe no rige ndukie ngencho mono kuwa kende gyonse inga none serikali ebe county ebe national egento kibekire number 1 the primary responsibility cardinal responsibility of any government no kubeka usalama igonge kero usalama ya sarekire none kuwabwate mangana nde onse igokora atiga wachi gusuburi kira magendo kiagera mangana usalama kiagera magendo tayura akore tayarabe ekera abantu batamete no marembe igo twari kuburi abarayi baito tutari gukwana nyagete amangana aya kurwa bachi baito aba MCA aba member of parliament chigaba na cheito chibe kurunaro kurugusi baumera ne bwango bareto marembe kiagera egento mana inchi yaga netino marembe naende nkore mkiagwa na inchi chinsa motions ngofa idikabali ku chinsa motions mugusiyore mendagera abantu baito bamansa ibanywa mugusinere ase yokulema gendereiro gokea twanyoranga balimba bwate sengare twalema igonga abarayi baitu twari ko huria singa kiyenga onyambara ikerani ali asobwango baikerani erindo marembo nyare koirana
asa maria tangro nga Winston wina sasati kurumagenje siri tukoli yale ndo mkutano mya sana wikawa tadi governor Kisi county asia kwa machoge tuolenga kurumachoge mahate paka machoge ruguru ya bagiro no one understanding tokano ko work together no governor ito secure machoge modalities to work together we set up various committees both in Kisi both in Nairobi even the diaspora so wananga what we want to do get out of it together and get to succeed because Kisi county has become a place that we have to change.
Omorigereria tokorwa ase county ya Nairobi tokwenda ya masemo wika ase county ya Nyamira ase abasae bono baborigwe kwerikia aso bonge buna bakichikura nabo igo besokie na kurwanirira ebirogo ao ase obochori bore bosio uko no kuburia kurwa ase egati abasaye kurwa ase ensemo ya borabu abo batebire ni chinga kichekire cy'abasaye babonete gwesokya nabo igase baruro kuburia guchya asa barayi bari abakuru gusabo babeira abagaka banyare ko babagutigera abasaye aburi bagana ribarachi kwene kibuna nkurabare abasaye ase batebire buna nabo bamanyete amechando nabo igo amaganie y'abasaye bagwetera ase bakwanire marange abasaye nigo babere bagutumika bube astiga chitabwenereti anene aso gukora chibura buru ase misangirikano ya gesiasa
asa marita nguru kwa locha sirugena wata asilieta linde awata rugena junior kurwa sensemo ya Burabu constituency nenche no yomobo ulintenina asikiro kyo bobunge kya Burabu constituency ni gongo tebya abantu ba mintunga eraundi ye narorire ekegoriye keke gwesokya kurwa bw'MCA gutira birugo byonse gutira ngote bambya mono sana nanchi no yomobo ase bichana biribike nanchi natakire kutinina ase njira yo kokonya abantu ba minto monso ase nsemo yaito ya Burabu Kenya yaito tiga abantu bonse biba mukirere igoro egekogera nigo tuwa abayiboli baito batubeka chisukuru bagoteba nga bagatoteina soma abana baito soma egere mucha gwekonya tokande sukuru tokatebwa na abayiboli nga n'abalimu nga soma ekora inwe abarayi bamambya bono mambye yaito yaikire rero mambye yaito yaikire omwaka oyo mambye yaito nere yagerire twatenenire egere tokonye ase bali bachagete oburayi obo boyinse yaito ya Kenya nento togenderere gochimutu abasaye tenena borie kerogeke ngeri kionde kerogeke ne kyaito abasaye bono tenena mokonye ense yaito egento gyansugumire munencho musaye kuborie kerogeke obobunge nkelinga amangana twaliere tuchira n'abantu baito bali batanganete kero kende twatebete na tiga bagaka batangane tindiko gose bagaka eko tabate na panapo kwasia palipiki neno lakini kwa sasa abasaye nabo bwate ebirengere ebinyia abasaye nabo bwate ogotegerera kwa bwango na gokora bwango munabona ntutete ebirengere ebinyia in parliament byogo change byokorosiri chiko ligokonya abantu baito bono nakinate ebire na kitwate nini n'abasaye egera tokonye situation yasi yaikiri amangana asarikire gai bono into tutete kokonya egera bagaka kurumaga tubwatisi suma abasaye mutwe munabono ensemo yeto ya Burabu ninteneine nindate kokonya ekegori kegeke kya Burabu nindate kokonya ekegori egeko kegokina kurbono munabono chisukuru cheito echisaregeti bono chibarabara cheito nturachido simuna tuatakerete tuabere tokolemerari no amuna tuikiringa kiga abasaye bono tutene tukuburia mangana na singi ntokonye nturigerereti nabata etogokora kamaga nito aria abu ensemo yeto mane apunge twarigeri twaganyire mpaka twarosire chitaraja njira rosi kwa abantu baitase bagwetera chichiro chito njira rosi kuya abasaye tenena ba MCA tenena abantu bonse tenena abasaye baguribaga baragamba ense yeto ya Kenya turamanjuri nko bare nekena tuisukukora ekera tokora statistics chito ya Kenya abasaye igo barabange number 1 abasaye bayimukire bare niriyanda eko abasaye baranyora mirimo egendo kegosuma abasaye mono gochora abasaye bandi nkelinga umusawo yogochorwa no yomo buri okorite skuru utarabwa ati mirimo kero kindi abagaka ose abantu ababira bagotwake babenyire ebirogo bamenyire ebirogo bataikururibaga abasaye banyore nabarabu enjira yo kwerwanirira se ebirogo ebi nakigekogera abasaye bayimukire ndabasaye nabo abange Kenya yito abasaye nabo abange abasaye bono bayimukire ngonturi bali oburayi boito bwa Kenya
Samarieta angoro kusamicarana Elias Buse, that is my name. Rio bwana watiro na kine bakana ikirega njenga Nyangoso township ward wando mwana councilor Nyakundi naroba to mo councilor town ya township so na inche asike Nyanganyiro kire mutwa nimejitokeza na inche naonda asike Nyanganyireke ngosa abantu ba township na esabari mutwa yogo chenjo boraibwa town noonde ani noonde mutwe esinge ntete ko chenji town yetera rwase yarenge so egange ne ani gotina chikura tari ngotina chikura mbaru ko murai chikuranda tekotena esengenje bintu ebinge town yambira change township ward nere ward yoka etabuga tienya getari either level 3 ama level 4 ekokonye erifaro yaito unde bw'Ensoko no bwena chiro no moyo bweri kuba ba accident no babegete jamu asamo ntuanya gusuka nere ward abantu bado bakemyake bakoenda ruchine ibuyo betu gete ibuyo mutu nere ward bari tanya koros chiparabara chia y'abantu bara matobe mambe baka maroba imburaga yaturu munda kusinyugika nere ward bada abana bataranya kugenda school nere ward bado boke bago no bojambazi bojire bakalere sengenje security esengenje no security lights tai boronge. This is the only ward biashara bitayo 24 hours nyamire ko kwa ikire town ya saa 2 tokonyora soko ragira so ikina ikiagirira nje file tina changes itakere ko korwa myaka 5 yoke ise no kora changes chi nyinge chietante bintu bya kor for 9 years we have wasted our 9 years kendo ngiri ya kor completely apart. This is the only ward oise ko bwaje abantu bari ikiro anduli sabe list y'abantu bari ikire county government ene record tebana n'abantu 10% y'abakore gazi be county government a reason abantu bonsi bitu abegiro borai bakonyora mabaga bawani baje gutugurira rende na mwararo itogorwe mori gozanga kokirigura ikogorero na inchi na thiri ndira tiri ya siasa sibone miaka tu ikire nturi bana basinini borai about mentality borai tari miaka borai tai mobere is mentality na kyoko sukia bantu bao na inchi ra tiri na thiri ya siasa sina ikire po currently na inchi na bere ngopambana na basacha bande kyar mondo wate kuruka kachite boy chikura na bana inchi babwa twese pi ndoja kwanda saba na inchi tu ojo konya kuwa bere boraje na koregero ko boriwe inki kwa kolire inki yoko kora inki yoko chakokora orwe ker track record ya otebe nanje miaka na beye na harure jombe mia pare ro dingi ediko nyara korosi maje dingi ediko nyara korosi maje ko dingi ediko nyara koreta so to kotike ne ne pare no ne jombe jikwa tuji agoruta ribobe ngombere ne taba barasi urari ne ko so kinjire gyare bara nembe no na matanga to kwanda kuri jombe abaroira ba sometimes na bana siasa aba baitete umurori to kere ko konyo 5 minutes zengenje para nembe oira 50 minutes ko jakokonyo otimokire tuacha kotenge grave yabo korona nkorunde moringo karandeki we want to let the change kega asie korwe gasie onto yoboke tamambia kamanya nganda wachoro mwana siasa ka mugiruga ni gagusira guso mwana nga usira ndeterwe mori umuntu aboke kama ite no mwana wajanyora masoma maya pari to kechingi ya mayoka to kinya kitari amacha to keyokonyu abantu batori shimina magendero bataite into kweta devolution ya gaji into host ye county government headquarters lakini bintu bya takere ko koru bintu bikorete chigodi chiari sabu mari kuitani abatore town abantu batauni shibone bateta macho kunywa marunge abantu batauni shibwe batakete mari yoka to kinya kitari abantu batauni shibwe batete security bakore biashara 24 hours batai kusumboka abantu batauni shibwe batete chirere proper abantu bako soime abantu bakore biashara abantu morojo na bakomira ro chikando chikenya bakore biashara bakutu akuto mune chikari because ye bintu torabanga baite bironga chichiro chibe kuchira proper bangena baito barunjerari nonoko joge bako joga bakumira ngaitokore biashara ye na atebiria basaye na basaye kamuranchi asemwabeta usiyengi mamuroje muroje aspirants banda babako jana jubilee na bako minyoka bako nya ku defend ground bako rigereria na kunya ku rabibuya abasaye mwezi pia asemwabeta. This I'm telling you ngo bacha grand one example ko township ka amarieta yaba kakatwa igule since 1992 nko I'm putting them on notice go jakere next year ngo bakorande patienda ya retirement go jakere 10th August next year bonsi pia marieta ari moko igwa onde bwasyo tajire 40 ko chimoino abo bonsi pi ngo bayire ngo bebega retirement patiengi ya baendeka ba jakana barabwe biyombe nanu ndo tanya katora cha bondi kaja ke kwebanga na mbali na iwulo na batu arera chicha chinyinge tikabati na che namba basoko ligita bali ko director ko soba kole biashara binde biraba konje gyara this time waro tikaba sai bate kyo bugambi bo serious na itu so asubo gambi eri ndo ko nya bantu bayi gyara ndo understand ye bigori bibone ke byabone yanga biberet aba sai bonsi pia semwa betanya mira na gusiyengi mana Kenya kamuranche bwatekura na bari ba ko ne bibande na mwanda mwasangere bibande byabekwe bunna lizo riyo je kura inu muri kwanda waka kura kaindiri kacheke bande kiao ekina iko jo korosire bogi mabuga obwa future yao abantu sengenje tu atekrist abantu kabe na bayikoyo abayikoyo bono ega na bako mwana moka kibande kia yaga chiti ke mama nyete na lizo rizo ko kuboka tuchoro murayo tu ko chenjo bogi mabwaito nyenzi tu kusito ko pikoro asa bayikoyo kaindiri chikura jeno chibeka momo ni kurenda yonsi na ndo tendo support ya basaiba mindo baje babuga tegero ke mami ndo understand mechando ena obogambi people think na garoro mo sauta buga tibesto konya is not about money is abantu kamba na abantu mba understand dia bana ba mwa bayi kaka abana bayibudu zo kusaba chikura abana ba mindo they understanding yurwete mba maite na ye soki evidengere bia ubibeka sabantu buronga abantu ba understanding na bura is not about money is about ngiyo jakokorera abantu ngio plan diko ngi kwa kore no mbone so nya beru china ki no ngere ngento kere community abasai botambe ntoko te biguna no boina tumwara baka bakore botambe na sama zangare ko bona basai so ka kimoto konye chikambi chikoba no ne chikanisa basai so ke botambe ro no bageni ndagere kere ngento na basai bona is right time tubaro sedi ndagere burungu yo burai tubare mere burungu tubare mere muzingi bo burai erinda abantu baro na into basai ndo isaini
Mwancho omorigereria tokorwa senseme ya borabu ekaunti ya Nyamira abo asebirengereri by'abasaye bagendrete kubatikana n'obochori bore bosio tokira na wikaga iga ase ekaunti ya Nairobi ekero abasubati gose abarayi abangina abo bachorire ase serikali ya broad based nigo bono besokire na komochia oyo kabeire omokonyi bw'omurayi bw'enseri Rigathi Gachagua ase enkwana yae abwatoka ayibatebre buna egosegeta obogesaku okwana kurwa ahasama gachoye bungaborit kuri igoro abarayi abo nigo batebre buna abuna abarabu buna abasubati tibagochigwancherana enkwane yego chigosegeta obogesaku ase batebre buna ekero musubati akonyomwa tari kurigereria ng'angesaku kia konyomwa na kerokyo enkwane nige gocha amatuka make maiga ya Gachagua komochia omuwaziri w'oburendi bwaime Murkomen yotebre buna nigabeire gagukwana buna abaikoyo nigo babwate obogesaku ase anyarete ko bagakomomochia ng'a anyare ko bagagotigana na barabo tigatura igwari banyarete ko bakubwatuka bwori tkuregoro.
This is a joint press statement by the women members of parliament condemning gender-based political attacks and defending the dignity of women in public life. Today, the 25th of August 2026, we, the women members of Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, stand before the nation to condemn the disturbing pattern of personalized, degrading and gender-based attacks directed at women leaders, spouses and bereaved families in the cause of political disagreement. Our concern is not that Honorable Rigathi Gachagua disagrees with women leaders. Political disagreements is legitimate and necessary in any democracy. Our concern is the manner in which some of these disagreements have been expressed through personal humiliation, sexualized insults, intimidation, and repeated targeting of women because their gender, marital status, or political relationships. A woman does not surrender her dignity when she enters into politics. She does not lose her right to respect because she disagrees with a powerful man. She does not become a political property because she belongs to a particular party. Neither does she become a political weapon merely because she is married to a public official. Our constitution is very clear. Article 28 recognizes the inherent dignity to every person and the right to have that dignity respected and protected. Article 27 guarantees equality and equal protection before the law. Article 73 reminds all leaders that authority is a public trust to be exercised with integrity, respect, and responsibility. These constitutional protections apply equally to every Kenyan woman. We have witnessed degrading and gendered remarks reportedly directed to Nyandarua County Woman Representative Honorable Faith Gitau. Political leaders are entitled to challenge her decisions, record and political positions, but no disagreement justifies languages intended to shame her sexuality, morality, or womanhood. We have also witnessed Honorable Mary Maingi publicly condemned and labeled as a traitor for exercising her independent political judgment. Her political choices may be debated, but burial ceremonies should never become a platform for humiliating an elected woman leader or inciting hostility against her. We are equally concerned by the repeated introduction of wives and families into political disputes. Honorable Gachagua disagrees with Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen. He should address him directly. A wife must never be reduced to a political instrument simply because of the men she married. We affirm that condolences and support offered to bereaved families are important. However, every engagement with a grieving widow or family must respect their privacy, wishes, autonomy, and consent. Grief must never become an opportunity for political theater and confrontation. We further note that sustained political attacks against Governor N.Y. Guru, Cecily Mbariri, and Susan Kihika. These governors are public officials and must be held accountable for their policies, decisions, and performance, just like their male counterparts. However, criticism must not descend to gendered intimidation, personal degradation, or the suggestion that women owe political obedience to any man. Women do not owe political allegiance to men because of their status, former office, or influence. Political independence is not betrayal, or disagreement is not disloyalty. We are not asking that women leaders be shielded from scrutiny. We are asking that women be subjected to the same standards of political accountability as men.
We are saying that we do not want to set a precedence in this country that discourages the girl child from joining politics or contesting for any position. So the trend that we are beginning to see through our leaders concerning the political culture, we do not want to see that being created. So we are saying that a young woman entering politics should not have to fear that her family will become a political target. A woman seeking elective position or an elective office should not believe that humiliation is the price she must pay for leadership. A woman who disagrees with a powerful political figure should not have to choose between her political convictions and her dignity. Women have the right to lead just like men. And we are in a situation where we are fighting, working very hard to ensure that we increase more women in leadership so that we can address the two-thirds gender principle. We are in a situation where we are fighting against the patriarchal and cultural myths against women leadership. So we do not want anything that discourages girls and women from getting into political space.
Especially for us who our mothers come from the mountain, our fathers come from Western. When you tell us where to return the children, we don't know. So I want to plead, let us not go into that direction. We have intermarried. The children don't know these things. Let us not put them in. So for me, if we want to kill Kenya, the Kenya we've been trying to say we want it to be tribeless, and we are still going back to the same mistakes that we do, it is going to haunt us. So let us move out from politics of family, who got married where. Those who got married in Western, in Central, in where, you are in Kenya. You know why you got married there, and you know the love that took you there. That's all you understand. So for me, especially in Nairobi, we have intermarried, not a joke, in our constituencies. We don't know who is a Luo or a Kikuyu or what. We see it, but our children don't know those things. So let us not go that route.
Tumekuja hapa kama wamama ili tukashifu kabisa matamshi ya Mr. Rigathi Gachagua. Matamshi yake sasa sio matamshi ya kisiasa, ila ni madharau kwa wamama, ni matusi kwa wamama, na hatukubaliani kabisa na siasa ya aina hiyo. Tumeona mara nyingi akiyafanya na wengine wanasherekea. Na sio yeye peke yake, wengi kwenye muungano wa opposition wamekuwa wakitusi wamama walioko kwenye siasa na wale ambao hata wapo kwenye siasa lakini waume wao wapo kwenye siasa. Na tunasema sisi kama population ya wamama tuko wengi kuliko waume. Katika nchi hii, katika dunia hii, wamama wako wengi, wasichana wako wengi. Na tutaungana kama wamama wa Kenya kuikashifu. Na siku ile ya kupiga kura ndio utajua kweli wamama wamekataa siasa aina hiyo, na tutakupiga nje. Kwa sababu huwezi ukatudharau, kiwango cha unafika unadharau mwanaume mwenzako kwa mke wake. Wengi wamekuwa wakifanya siasa Kenya hii. Na tumekuwa na opposition leaders ambao walikuwa na bado wapo wengine. Hakuna ule anayetusi mwanaume mwenzake kupitia mke mwenzake. Kumtusi mke wa mtu na unamwacha mwanaume mwenzako ni kuonyesha ya kuwa hauna uwezo wowote. Kwa sababu mbona usimtusi mume mwenzako, unaenda unamtusi mke wake na familia yake. Na kutusi viongozi ambao wako kwenye viti, ambao walichaguliwa na wananchi, wako na wafuasi wao. Hiyo siasa ambayo Rigathi Gachagua anatuletea tunaikashifu na tutamuonyesha ya kuwa wamama tumeikataa, na tunaomba wamama wa Kenya usiende kwenye rali ya mtu ambaye anatusi mwanamke mwenzako. Hata kama unampenda, lakini kutusi mke mwingine ni kukutusi wewe.
Jambo lingine ambao tunataka tu kuongeza kilo tena ni ya kwamba all women leaders, sisi wote tu pamoja na tunasimama pamoja, tunapendana. Mtu akitusi mwanamke mmoja ametusi sisi wote, na ametusi kila mwanamke katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na pia Rigathi Gachagua anafaa kujua ya kwamba women have equal rights with all the men and every other person in this country. Kuintimidate wa mama ati kwa sababu sisi tuko kwa siasa haitamsaidia. Na ningetaka tu encourage my fellow women leaders, all young aspirants wenye wanakuja. Hii kiwanja ya siasa is not an easy one, but you have to be bold enough and remain focused. Musiwe intimidated ati kwa sababu mtu kama Gachagua anaendelea kutusi sisi. Ninajua ya kwamba hata kwa social media wamama wanakuwa wanatusiwa, women leaders wanatusiwa, lakini ningetaka tu kuconfirm ya kwamba hatutishiki anymore. We are focused, we are bold, and we are ready to face the next action.
Alafu sisi tukiolewa hatupendi kabila, sisi tunapenda kenye tunaona. Kuna mwingine atasema amependa sura, mwingine amependa vile mtu mwili yake imejijenga. Hakuna mtu anapenda kabila kwa kina mama. Sisi we love the person. Mwingine ataangalia physical appearance, mwingine hata atasikia harufu na apende mtu. So hivyo kwa kina mama wakati tuna fall in love, we don't fall in love with a tribe. Na tukienda kwa hiyo boma tunaitwa mama boy. Kwa hiyo boma penye kuna mzee, haijulikani ni kwa huyo mzee, inakuwa kwangu. Unaenda kwa mama boy, sasa hapo ni kwangu. Yani mzee hata hajulikani ni kwake. Kwa hivyo wamama, wazee, tukiheshimiana sisi sote, jamii itakuwa kamilifu.
Omwanchwa omorigereria kurwa asoroboti ururwa bangina abaraiga kurugaiga asomucho Nairobi meye bunge nene no tukuragenda omutimuko omokego nkwiranande asegekegeke kerebosio ende togendere gusangana bwe gokumanyani nararia yagagendete gwateka ase chinsemo ao tochare nkwiranande asegekegeke kerebosio.
Eye n'Ensoko TV oboroso bw'umugusi onye kubwatari iboryo obosemia gusekero kendi gyonsigoro emeroberio yaito y'Ensoko TV twakeresimi ase namba 0788666663 gose turikiriri uko rya email ensokotv.ke@gmail.com boigo nabugo tutarira service ite gutuka samagacho hazina towers egoroba ya gatanu na limo asumucho munene o Nairobi. Ensoko TV oboroso bw'umugusi
Chembro Gomingo Magara mintu mwesi mwenye kitinga simwabeta muganda rigereria Ensoko TV oboroso bw'umugusi Ensoko kusema tamakano.
Magega ya televisioni y'Ensoko gwikasero yao kwanyoriribaga ligi yaliyokuraria asegete senambeyemo imena isiko yeriroba liyagusi onye kubwa tokuraria gukwenyuria ogukwa gose okubonchuria bono nabokonyoribaga lya bene liyokuraria asegete senieke aseriguri liyakibusani turikere gose twakeresimi gwitire namba yaito yobonchuria 0788666662. Eye n'Ensoko TV, oboroso bw'omugusi.
My name is Albert Omariba. I'm the principal of Kitwebe Technical Training Institute. Kitwebe Technical Training Institute is a government institution situated in Nyambane County. We admit our students as from Standard 8 to Form 4 across all departments. Our students receive help and capitation from the government, therefore there is no worry of the fee payment. And our students pass very well in all departments, and we are able to achieve 90% pass.
Ni kweli Kitwebe Technical Training Institute ni chuo ambacho kimebobea na kinatoa mafunzo katika kiwango cha diploma, certificate na artisan katika kozi zifuatazo: Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Building and Civil Engineering, Fashion Design, Cosmetology, ICT, Business Management, Water Technology, Hairdressing and Beauty Therapy, Social Work and Community Development, Plumbing, Welding, kati ya nyinginezo.
We are having a May intake 1-1. We have 8 departments, and we have the Center of Excellence in Fashion and Design. We are actually the best in this region. This region means Nyanza and Western. So we are welcoming students who can seek admission to undertake courses and training in our various departments. So welcome to this community and learn, get the skills, and then from there you can be self-employed or you can seek for employment. Thank you.
Vile tuna short courses za computer packages na German language. Kitwebe Technical Training Institute. Skills for self-reliance. Je, una ndoto kufanya kazi ughaibuni? Mwakala wa ALM tutakuwezesha kutimiza ndoto yako. Tunatoa ajira katika nyanja mbalimbali kwenye mataifa ya Qatar, Milki za Kiarabu, Saudia, Bahrain, bara Europa, miongoni mwa mengine.
We are legally registered by the National Employment Authorities, and we are licensed to do manpower recruitment for different countries. Currently, we are reaching companies in UAE, in Qatar, Russia, and we are hoping to enlarge our boundaries.
Kwa maelezo zaidi, wasiliana nasi kwa nambari 0721151500 au 0729690571, au unaweza kutembelea katika ofisi zetu zilizopo jijini Nairobi katika jumba la Delta House, orofa ya pili, chumba nambari 204 katika barabara ya University Way.
Tupigie simu utimize ndoto yako ya ng'ambo. Karibuni sana.
Ine nuganete betri uratumia segari yao. Ebetri uguchachirimo ugakweba. Ebetri ulegene chinga kichonsi ebenga kieriberera gusenga kiyobokendu. Tawe chandika. Autobat Kenya Limited no tuligigiga asingichao. Nigo tokorosia na koni chipetiri uratumia chinga kichonsi. Chipetiri uratumia asigari enke ebasi no nyaneli kurukuru.
Tunapopitia pale kwa gari yako tutahakikisha tumeweka na tumekupimia charging system ya gari na pia tumekupimia battery na kila kitu itakuwa iko sawa.
Alright. Sasa na ikileta shida kabla hii warranty ishe itakuwa namna gani?
Ikikusumbua kabla ya warranty utakuja, alafu tukishaiangalia tutakupatia betri ya kushikilia tukiendelea kuangalia yako.
Talia yoka ne betri yechinguru.
Betri ya Autobat ni betri ambayo ni spill proof, kumaanisha hiyo betri haimwagi acid ile ambayo iko ndani. Hiyo betri imetengenezwa na calcium. Kama vile tunajua calcium hainanga water loss, kumaanisha sasa hiyo betri hakuna wakati ambayo inakauka hiyo acid.
Asamange twakirisimi namba 0739697855.
Kwa wale watu wa kuja mstatiwa, wachana na betri kama hizi. Tumia Autobat. Betri ni Autobat.
Ekerendwali ya kuibule chinguru kirali tukunesegi ekerwa ikirensinyo ogosemelia nkoro One Fit Health Center ni ntomwali bomuchando
Secretary ne Dr. Kena Moses umunyagitari na chagete inyagitari ya World Fit. Inyagitari ya World Fit ya chagete 2005 asomucho karatila. Asinyagitari ya World Fit ne inyagitari ntangani ase East Africa ngima. Asitogo kolege ntogekoro kunga blending of medicine. Yani ngege inyagitari ya World Fit itoko tumia chinchira isato yoko weni ya marwaile. Tuatumia enchire ya kawaida tukurukanga conventional medicine, tuatumia nutritional medicine, na ande tuatumia ndigunga international herbal medicine. Asinya litari yaito itoko make sure nga tuakolide diagnosis, tuamanyire mechando ya bobugate, wekire enchira ya professional laboratory testing, tuamanyago kwa malyogo.
Nye kwa buli wa mrembe shindwali chinkongu buno buriri bwisukari, high blood pressure, arthritis, ulcers, na hemorrhoid egati ya mange, toba nobuoba. Tunyora samagacho Alisa Plaza, ejo kwenye manyekantu na Uhuru Plaza, 3rd floor, room number 307, ange nichiru ya marigiti omuchobo songo. Huse tuakirisime asi number 0722245763.
Ekari gakurwaria maroira ari complicated, abaroira bagocha barwarte mono. Ekero bakire igoro bairwa mariogo, umuroira akwenda ukura matukato, lakini ekero bakwira na rio watakora daktari ya kabere ya gatatu bokonya abo buyendete.
Eye Ensoko TV. Oboro
Bia mono kigimana endo Omwanchwa omorigereria keronde no kwigena ni gore me yomoroberi bw'Etorobini kero togoswa ase ensemo ya kabere yomoroberi bw'Etorobini erinde togendere koba togosemani nabo igo togendere koba tokumanya ayo agendrete gokorekana aiga ime yomocho Nairobi nabo igo chinsemo chiaguse nabo igo chinsemo ao isiko yense Omwanchwa omorigereria kero tokwirana wikagaiga ase county ya Nairobi ase ensemo ya Karen abamenyi b'ensemo ya Karen nigo bono besokire na komochia egetambokero gia serikali gyokugania kubagachera egetangikireri ekigegocigweta ensemo ya Rirutangong ase batebire buna eserikali nige bwenerete kurigereria nabo igokora obutuki ngendoki abamenyi abo batagete nigo bakwanita yaiga gose nigo bakwanira yaiga ase chinsemo cha Lang'ata District Association abo ase batebire buna nige serikali bonete kubaroseria epara egocha kurwensa emeyuwika asomocho Nairobi eyue kurukubuna express erigo gokeania ogwitinyana gwechigari kero batebire chinga kibakurwensa emeyugocha ase ensemo ya Nairobi town nigo bakoba bagwetera amakongu nabo igogutumia chinsa chinyingase ase epara ase bono batebire serikali nige bwenete kurigereria ngendoki abamenya abo batagete baro batebire tibatagete getange kikireri.
My name is Peter Kitavi. I serve as the General Manager, Karen Lang'ata District Association. Well, it's unfortunate we've had a meeting and yet our conclusion isn't as what we anticipated. we've been called for stakeholder engagement with the desire to sit down with the representatives and consultants and leaders of current Kenya Railways with an intent to have them supply us details and go through a pre-feasibility and feasibility study that would guide the best infrastructure that would be best for the residents and the people who live in Karen area. It's unfortunate that they did not supply us with what we had asked them for. Instead, they came with the terms of reference and a work plan for what they had intended to construct along Karen side area, which is quite literally an insult to the residents of Karen. Being that we've been here 3 years ago, 3 years later, having gone to court, going to the environmental court, constitutional court, at the High Court, they are still unable to provide us what we are asking for. As current residents, we are not against development. However, we'd like the development that is happening within our area and neighborhood to be constitutional, to be legal, to be adherent to the very constitution which is the backbone of our country. Absolutely, because when you look at the, user cost analysis, I'm not a civil engineer, but if I do a quick math and I look at how many passengers can be ferried through the railway, and you look at how much they're spending, if you do an analysis of how much it's going to take, if and when the project is meant to sustain on itself, we're looking at it repaying itself for a period of anywhere dancing between 70 years to 120 years, which begs the question, why then are we focusing so much on one means of transport? And yet we could explore as many options as possible that would serve more people, that we could stand on itself at a longer scale of things, you know. If and when the intent is to serve the people, then let's have a conversation with the people and we will let you know. Happy to guide you on the best infrastructure that would work well for the residents of Karen. It all backs down to the feasibility study that you're talking about. You want to build an infrastructure from point A to point B. A feasibility study would require you to do a cost analysis, survey analysis, infrastructure analysis on different routes. Okay, a railway is one of them. It's going to take 12 kilometers, 13 kilometers. It's going to cost X amount of money. It's going to be ready in X amount of money. The compulsory acquisition on the property will be affected, will be X. Similar, let's compare that to the roads, let's compare that to all other means of transport possible before you come and say the railway is the best course of action. But before we do that, we are a long way to go. I think I'd go back to Article 1 of the Constitution that says all sovereign power belongs to the people. And you cannot imprint a project to us as members of a community without hearing our voice and say, you know, this is a project, but it's our livelihoods on the line. It's our trees on the line, and we would appreciate it if you could hear our cry and let's sit down, let's discuss what's the best course of action on an infrastructure. We're not against development, but we're against development that discredits our very own constitution. I think there needs to be a serious interagency conversation being put on the table, which is one of the things that we raised as a concern on the public participation. If and when this is a pre-feasibility test, it would be nice if we have representatives from all other stakeholders of this project. So I'm talking about people from the Land Commission, I'm talking about the Nyambane Roads Authority, the Namata. All the stakeholders need to come and agree this is the best course of action for infrastructure instead of focusing on just one.
Engineer Peter Nduati. Engineer Peter Nduati is a retired civil engineer. I worked in City Hall for 10 years, then worked as a consultant for over 30 years before I retired during COVID times in 2020. Over and above being an engineer, I have done projects in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Eritrea, transport projects, even Ghana. So I'm passionate about projects and involvement of the community in projects. Over and above that, I'm a grandfather, Aguka. So I'm a trustee of the environment for future generations. Thank you very much. Before you start a project, you need to know what kind of project you are going to execute. The feasibility study helps you identify the project which you have the best economic returns, which you have minimum environmental impacts, which will benefit socially and even politically. So a feasibility study is an integral part of any project. Even you, if you want to build a house, you have actually got to do a feasibility study. You have to know whether you're going to put a 2-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house or a 10-bedroom house. What you decide depends on the size of your family and how you use it. If you want to, their needs, a project which meets their needs, and whether or not it meets their needs is dependent on that feasibility study. The community here in Karen and Nangata and Gong supports a project which meets their needs. A project which meets their needs. And whether or not it meets their needs is dependent on that feasibility study. As for, we look at the documents. Kenya Railways have promised to give us a feasibility study. We are going to look at the documents. We are going to make our comments on the documents. But we cannot make a commitment before we have seen the documents that they have. Those will be explored in a feasibility study. That is what a feasibility is all about. It explores alternatives, and it comes with the alternative which is most economical, most environmentally friendly, and most socially acceptable.
You've asked a few questions about alternatives. Of course, there are alternatives. For the people who live in this area, we're just not talking about Karen, but the entire way up to Kiserian. When President Kibaki was in power, he started dual carriaging of Ngong Road all the way from National Library, and the intention was to terminate it at Kiserian and bring it back to Angata Rongai. Today, even if you live here and try to go to Ngong, this particular time as we talk, it will take you an hour to 2. I don't think the railway line will cure that. The other thing is that there's a residual benefit that comes with an infrastructure like a road network. If you go today on this already completed road of Ngong to Karen, how many businesses are along that corridor? There are so many people who are doing all manners of businesses, Juakali artisans, furniture, vegetables, mama bogas, all are catered for. The moment you run a railway line, you already restrict that from happening. 2, and more important to me, there is Kangawa railway station that is on SGR line. A massive project that is a white elephant. I took a train on that line. It leaves at about 6:15 in the morning with about 20 passengers going to Syokimau. A journey of about 18 kilometers. From Syokimau to CBD is 30 minutes. So it means people coming from Kangawa can go to CBD in 48 minutes. That will not have to cost a taxpayer extra money because the infrastructure is already there. All that is needed is to tarmac 1.5 kilometers. Matatus will terminate passengers there who can board the morning train and come back in the evening train. You've sorted out that. Open up this corridor, not just for transport, but for other residual business economic benefits that will benefit so many people along this ride. So we are not talking as Karen people, but we are looking at this entire corridor to Kiserian. There's a lot of residual benefit that will accrue. Railway line, we're not saying it's not one of the, it's just one of them. I think Engineer Duarte expounded on that point very, very effectively on it. Should we be looking at the meter gauge? Should we be looking at trams? Should we be looking at light railways? Or should we be looking at alternative line for me? Because to do an electric line, and my senior is here, who is a civil engineer. That's a completely different technology that at design level of feasibility study, questions will need to be looked at. That study will need to see the feasibility. We don't have stable power supply in this country. And that's the reason why the initial SGR, which was supposed to have been an electric line, like our neighbors in Tanzania and our neighbors in Ethiopia, ours went back to the 40-year-old locomotive. The reason we're given, the excuse we're given is that we don't have power, stable power supply. So until such a time that Kenya can sort out and stabilize power, we can't even talk about electric trains, which is what the rest of the world are doing or running on. Technology that at design level of feasibility study, questions will need to be looked at. That study will need to see the feasibility. We don't have stable power supply in this country. And that's the reason why the initial SGR, which was supposed to have been an electric line, like our neighbors in Tanzania and our neighbors in Ethiopia, ours went back to the 40-year-old locomotive. The reason we're given, the excuse we're given is that we don't have power, stable power supply. So until such a time that Kenya can sort out and stabilize power, we can't even talk about electric trains, which is what the rest of the world are doing or running on. I don't know whether the policy makers and the implementers, what they do and what they think, but as a citizen, the priorities are upside down. The priority in this area is not a railway line. We need to decongest this road by dual, and the designs were done for this road all the way up to Kiserian. It's just the funding that was not provided for. But the works had already been done, earmarked. When it came to implementation, it went south. Instead, something popped up with a railway line that came out of nowhere, and we've never been consulted as stakeholders. If you want to call this a stakeholders engagement, then I need to go back to school and understand what that means under the law. David Oliwa. I'm a resident here, and one of who will be affected if that railway line runs, because my land is affected.
Moncho omorigereria kero totigarete ase county ya Nairobi ni goto gose abaonchoreria ba sekta ya matatu sekta ya taxi cha enchera yo mutandao ni gobono baruro kubore gocha serikali korigereria richikerie erengete kubeka rinya ari ogochia komenta FA gose na uri kurusigwa aso bonchoreria bo okwana ase committee yo bonchoreria obwa matatu ase amagache bungaburi tkorigoro abonchoreria bunigo batebere buna egetambokere kyo nigigo chikwirera abantu abange gotigana gokorera obonchoreria obo ase batebere buna nigo barachi gokora obonchoreria ase chinsa mocha matatu nonya nabo nigo batebere buna nige bitambokere bwenete kobekwa erikwene kinga abakenya tibari gochandika ekerobaganeti kogenda ase chinsemo au imeyeza.
There is an ongoing conversation around setting up a minimum price for our sector, which will be, I mean, the government it's being driven by the Ministry of Transport currently, and there is that conversation, and there was public engagement around that. As a platform, the question that we were always asking, and we want to say as we started off, was how do we ensure that this minimum price, or this idea about introducing a minimum price, doesn't destroy the marketplace? By that, if you've been following the news and the conversation currently, there's a talk about people saying, if we increase the price with the current economic condition, we are not going to pay. We can't pay. We'll move over to other transport modes, matatus and that. And for us, we were saying, does this protect the driver, or does it create a bigger problem? Should we not be looking, instead of regulating prices in a market economy and in a sector which is a complementary sector where people can move and they can have options and they will choose options when they're faced with a challenge, should we not be looking at where the pain point is for the participants, so the drivers, their issues, their cost issues, their issues, instead of going to that? So our position was that market forces should be allowed to equilibrate.
Kenya being an attractive business environment, but what we really need is regulation that is actually very predictable. Unfortunately, in this sector, since the 2022 regulations came into force, there's been a lot of volatility in terms of how the regulations have continued to evolve. In most markets where we operate, speaking from Uber's perspective, we operate in over 7,000 cities all over the world. And one thing we see that has really helped the business and has helped the business to continue reinvesting into those markets is a sense of predictability. We need to constantly understand, if we put investment of X amount this year or next year, are we going to still be in that market for 2, 3, 4, 5 years to be able to recoup it and continue growing the business? Unfortunately, because the regulations are constantly changing in Kenya, that makes it a bit difficult for us to be able to actually set proper base here and invest as much as we'd like. As mentioned also, there's the service fee cap, which is of 18%. This is something that's quite peculiar. Kenya actually has, if I may say it, has the most stifling regulation in the world when it comes to that. So just giving background, commission or service fee is how the platforms make their revenue. Because what happens is the driver is connected to the passenger through the platform, and then the passenger pays some fare to the driver, and we charge a commission on that fare. So out of the, for example, 100 shillings, we charge a commission. In most markets, our global average is about 25%. However, in Kenya, it's capped at 18%.
I want to now also appreciate the flexibility that has also happened, where now drivers in our country can be able to move from using, Farasi to Uber to Bolt. I think previously, and that is the reason why sometimes government had to intervene, they were also rigid. And we have to agree, one of you were very rigid that you are not able to allow Kenyan drivers who are willing to operate, on these diverse platforms. Yes, now that, yes, for each driver, 100% share. Now that they've agreed, I think it's a very good thing. And working together as a team today, I think is also very good.
Kenyans are increasingly using these services, but you have poor quality service, specifically maintenance of the vehicles. Someone is probably, you also have drunkard drivers, and you have some thieves sometimes, sorry, quote unquote. You send someone, I have been, sometimes you watch and see these things in social platforms, and people complain that Ubers are eating people's food. I'm just saying that. Uber hits, I'm just saying. I hope I believe you've seen that. Those are personal, people. But you see, it affects the company. So that even as we regulate this and help you, do this business very well, you also have to rein into the whole sector in terms of demeanor. The attitudes of the drivers is just way off.
To find the place of the labor sector in your business, you realize that being a lady, she brings up very critical issues that Kenyans are talking about. And one of the key ones is to do with customer safety. When I hail a cab, being a child or being a lady, how safe am I? Is what, and especially at night.
And when I am drunk.
And you might not even be inebriated as a customer. The gracious lady is asking, how safe am I when I'm riding in your cabs? She talks about a matter that you will respond to in your closing remarks. She brings up a critical issue of quality control, and quality control at many levels. The quality of the vehicle being provided, but even matters going all the way into the hygiene of the driver, the interior, the cleanliness. And these are issues that only a good lady would bring up. I don't think the gentleman here would have even picked this up. Is my driver wearing roll-on? And for good reason. And the lady brings it up. She's talking about how do you also speak to the matter of customer satisfaction. Even as we are dealing with your issues on the 18%, how then are you able to assure customer satisfaction that would justify then your need for an increase from 18% to maybe the global standard of 25%. But the key one that I pick up from the honorable member representing the people of Baringo has to do with a law that was passed by this committee. And this is the law on data protection. When you tell me that out of this team, only Farasi is a local entity, locally developed, locally managed, then how then am I assuring the Kenyans that their data is safe when they surrender such sensitive data as phone numbers, as addresses, including home addresses?
Considering that as a customer or a client, every time I request Uber, definitely my number and name pops up. So automatically it's picked up. And if you look at that, you never know. I mean, being my status today or someone else, every other person needs protection in terms of information. And we always don't know where it goes. Unapata mwingine, and sometimes you do twice or 3 times a day. Different vehicles, different times, and all of them, your information is out there. and more so when you're paying. So when you pay again, either through a card or through our mobile service, M-Pesa, it's the same. So you always feel like, as much as it is a good service, there's this thing that behind you, and if you're a very keen person, you always wonder whether this thing is going, wherever, who is collecting this information.
Are you bound by the data protection laws at a corporate level? And are your drivers also bound by the data protection laws individually?
There is a challenge whereby I've never tested about for us, but these platforms don't have physical offices. Yes. There's no physical offices, there's no contact phone. Yeah, that's known. If a driver messes up with you, it really takes a lot of time for you to get the contact center. What are you doing about it? Do you have a physical office in Kenya? In the sense most of you domicile in this country. Do you have a physical office? That physical office can be assessed if somebody has a complaint?
All of these points are points which we have always raised in our engagement with the regulators, with the policymakers. As we started off, one of the issues we pointed was that the passenger is not in the conversation. That was us opening up, expanding the conversation to a very critical person who is not in the room. And so that's why we really pointed to that fact that the voice of the consumer is really what is missing in the conversation. As to the point about the drivers and the driver earnings, and we always point out that we don't have a business if the driver is not happy. Sometimes we have to reiterate that, and we reiterate it in all of this. We are here because of drivers and because of passengers. So if you take away the driver or a driver who is not happy or is not contented, all the issues that you have raised, are issues that will come and hurt our sector, and they will destroy the business. Because the business, the service, and so for us, we have a vested interest in making sure that our drivers are happy. In the issue about the earnings and the pricing, I'll use a very good example. When the president had the meeting in Mombasa to discuss the challenges of the transport sector, if you take the matatu sector, they asked 4 or 5 requests for the president to intervene. And interestingly enough, it was about the pain that they have. Because what do I mean by that? They talked about insurance costs. They talked about the interest rate they pay for their loans. They talked about EV. They talked about, the other one was safety concerns, and all of that was presented to them, and the president made a commitment to address those. For ride-hailing, unfortunately, the conversation was only about price. Why am I using that example? Price is an indicator. Price is not the core issue. Because if we manage the other issues, and this is what we communicated to our driver community, if we can address what is your concern. So we're very happy that they said the driver should come and explain. And in our conversation with them, we say, when you go to explain to your member of parliament, don't focus on price only, because price is just signaling. Focus on where the pain is. If you have an EV, the government assists you to buy an EV today, you will not be exposed to fuel fluctuation. We are solving a problem there. Electric vehicles,
the electronic
vehicles, and all those other issues that you have. If your insurance cost drops, because the government helps you to address that, you will not be complaining about the price, and we'll be able to grow. Because when we look at the price, us as a platform, we make more money if the price is high. That's a fact. So if they increase the price to 600, we will make 18% of 600 will be at 70 or 80, or no, 700, no, 700, sorry, 180 or above. That's our take-home increase. So we have an interest in that, but we are cognizant of the demand side. Who is going to pay for that? There is an ongoing conversation.
Mwancho omorigereria tugutigana nayo abamenyi ba Chess Moi abo bare gotoka e county ya Nandi nigo bono besokire na korobekana ase baigo bemurunganirie ase batebire babere bagokora egasi ase obwagachi bw'echinyomba cherigorire inse ase county igo sasa enseme ya Chusmui abo ase bono banyare ko bakuru okubori gochia ase omorai bwense William Ruto kwena kebuna ngotarare goika ase enseme iyo eriarore nararia yagenderete nigo batebire buna nigo babere bagokora egasi ase egeka ase batebire chibese echio eserikali yabarirete iranga mbabe bagwakanu wika bono egati barabakanu ase gento batebire buna chibese echio nigo chiabere chigoswa ase emebuko y'abakurumi bono baruro okubori gochia ase omorai bwense kwena kia ngotarera are enseme iyo eri banyare ko bakonyora eng'ere yabo.
Sisi tunaomba hivi, hata hatuombi, tunataka pesa yetu. Na serikali ilisema hii kazi ni ya vijana, na saa hizi vijana hawapati pesa kwa ground. Hii pesa yenye government iliweka hapa iko wapi? Kama unanisikia wewe prezo, tunataka ufike kwa ground uone pesa yako inafanya nini.
Ikiwa kwa hii mjengo ya Chesumei tumeteseka, tumedanganywa kila wakati, pesa tunatolewa siku fulani, lakini leo tunalilia haki yetu. President penye huko tumenyanyaswa. Sisi ni wamama, tumejitolea kwa hii kazi ngumu sababu ya shida na nibari. Tunakuja saa 12 tunatoka saa 1.
Mimi Mjaluo, nimetoka Kisumu. President Ruto mwenyewe alitenga 27 million ya affordable houses, billion ya kujenga hizi affordable houses. Hizi unaona hizi hapa? Tumeshafanya kazi hapa sasa ni 3 weeks. Hatujapata mshahara. Kesho watoto wanafungua shule, tutapeleka shule na nini? Mimi kwanza mkiangalia sura yangu sijakula siku ngapi? Siku 3. Sasa hii mbulika hapa chini, nililala nje jana.
Umeniona mimi nateseka hapa Chesumei affordable. Nilitoka huko sehemu za inaitwa Awasi. Nilikuja hapa kufanya kazi hii. Sasa hii mjengo unaona iko juu. Futa hao wenye waliweka hapa ndani wabebe pesa watuletee, weke wengine. Walituambia 30 minutes wanaleta pesa hapa. Pesa haijafika. Na tuko na njaa, watoto nao wanaenda shule, hatuja
Mwancho omorigereria tokorwa ase county eyu ya Nandi ensemo ya Chesumei abo ase abamenyi b'ensemo eyu bakwemurunganeria obwagachi bw'echinyomba cherigorire inse abo ase babere bagokora emeremo goika bono egati barakanwa tokwenda ya masemo goika ase county ya Kilifi abo ase komiti ye bunge eyu etenenerete oboremi netugo nigo bono barireira yogochia kubwatoka gose yogochikubeka omuswada yokubwatoka chibese chisaine gochia ase wizara eyo gukwana kurwa ase gukwana chinga ase gikaro gikiranitwe na enseme yuno no waziri mutaikagwe yuro mu waziri b'uburemi netugo nigo bono kubatebire buna wizare yo nige bwenerete gose nige wizare yo ebwenerete kubwatokera chibese chisaine nabo gebwenete kubekwa omoroberio yo mugimo bwenete kubwatoka gochiase chiserikali chichi county na ribara chikonyara kuba bagusira abaremi nabo igogosemya abaremi chinchera cyo gukora oburemi burubuya ubura chikuba amatunda eribanyare kuba bakwegokeria.
Sniff out banned substances instead of a physical inspection.
For this level,
so that you don't poison people. And that is where
if it is money, then that is where it comes in. If it is a question of
so as you are giving the technical advice, so if we can be convinced without intelligence information, so it's something I pick. Now, Chair, the other issue is on budget. Do we have budget? Where? Na our wadudu nataka we required very safe products. That product was tea support was given to farmers. And they applied their eggs by the canal. They climbed both leaves, and when they left,
we are the ones to guide them in that process. So because when you say
it was not working. So when they said the dam was not working, we went there now. All the produce died. Now the question is one product. And Chair, this is your now fine. Not to us, tunajua now fine.
Oguto is here. Under an FCDP, which is the program we are
give a different solution that will have rapid million supporting only 60 staff covering the whole country. These are mchele ikiwa at seedling stage.
Agriculture is supposed to be funded to the tune of about 10% of the country's budget. As you will notice that this year we were barely just about over 2%. So clearly the agricultural sector is underfunded. And it is not just the regulators who are here today. The general space of agriculture is underfunded in Kenya. And if we are talking about our economy and talk about 26% of our economy relying on agriculture, then it goes without saying that if you want that to expand, if you want to get into value adding, if you want to get to expanded areas, if you want higher productivity per acre, then we must continue, to allocate higher funds for agriculture.
Yale ambao wameomba ni kweli, wameomba kwamba fedha ziongezwe, na sisi kama kamati ya ukulima tutapeana hayo mapendekezo, na kwa sababu ukulima ni uti wa mgongo wa nchi ya Kenya, na haimaanishi kwamba tumenyimwa kimakusudi. Ni kwa sababu taasisi huboreshwa hatua kwa hatua. Tunaenda katika msimu wa kuboresha ama kubadilisha bajeti kidogo. Wale wanasema bajeti hii tutapendekeza iwapo ataongezwa fedha, kama ni wale wa kupambana na kwekwe na wadudu ongezwe pesa kidogo, wale wa sugar board iwapo wanataka kuboresha tume ama taasisi ya uchunguzi wapewe pesa kiasi, wale ambao wanahusika na sekta nyingine. Cha muhimu ni kusonga mbele hatua kwa hatua. Katika sekta hii sio miujiza, ni kazi, na kazi ni uvumilivu.
Mwancho omorigereria tokorwa ase county ya Kilifi tokera na goika ase county ya Machakos ase abantu bagosokoborwa kwatebire nibuna abantu abange gose ekegoria geke nigo kigusiria obugima kubwatekana n'ugonchoreria kwerire ayo nigenegetigwe kurwa ase county ya Machakos chingaki ya mateyemo yari guchingira aso komenya kwemyaka emenge ya mateyo ya leza muluki leza uyo oguchingira emyaka emyeyemo na 10 kurwa iborwa nabo igo abana bae babere abo bare emyaka 53 kurwa baiborwa nigo baereire buna kurwa baiborugo nigo babere bakoria endagera eyeto emanyekanete buna endagereri abakuru bare kuri abandi bagoteba endagera ye kienyeji ase batebire buna asa matuko abwangoiga nigo chindagera chiabono chiabeire chigotumika chibwate ekemiko ekenge egento gekogera abana bakena boigo abantu bekegoria geke bagusiria obugima bwabo.
Alitufundisha venye wajukuu wanastahili kuishi ama venye binadamu anastahili kuishi na watu wengine, na sio sisi tu peke yetu. Alikuwa hata majirani mpaka saa hii. Hata ukienda majirani kwetu Kadhiani utapata kila mtu ama wajukuu wenye marika yetu wanataka kuwa mfano na sisi wenye tumelelewa na mama, naye amekuwa mstari wa mbele kukutanisha watu pamoja, na tunamshukuru sana. Sio familia mingi ama wajukuu wengi wako na bahati ya kukuwa na shosh mwenye ako na miaka 110 ama 100 na hiyo ni baraka kubwa sana kwetu sisi.
Many people might ask how she managed to reach this age of 110. According to my assessment is because of 3 things. 1, diet. 2, exercise. 3, avoiding stress. Okay. How about, let's start with the diet. What did she used to eat those days? What should they used to eat those days? What we used to eat. Because of poverty, we cannot afford these things now, which are spoiling people's health. They relied on natural, drought-resistant crop like millet, sorghum, beans. Because we could not afford even salt, which, as you know, is a problem to health. We used to eat anything that was sour, natural. So that diet they followed, which is now said to be very good for health. It was not by choice, but because of poverty, what the Gen Z today will call poor man's diet. But in the end, it was good for long life that she has enjoyed. They used to walk from Kadhiani to Nairobi. What better exercise than that? They used to go selling things from Kadhiani to Machakos, carrying on their backs. That was very good exercise. When I was small, my father used to work as a cook in Muthaiga for a white man. He used to come to Muthaiga to come and see me or come for me, and walk back to Kadhiani on foot. That is exercise, isn't it? Faith. Faith in God. That is what I found with them, as my parents. They took me for baptism in the Salvation Army in 1957, remember? Can you imagine? And since then, she has been very, very faithful, very strong in faith. And because of that faith, nothing to her was difficult. I'm not trying to go to another aspect, which is avoiding stress. If you want to live long, avoid stress. Some of the things that will make you avoid stress is faith, hope. Always very hopeful. There is nothing that made her shake. even when she had nothing, and she believed in God. She believed that with God, nothing is impossible.
Mama yetu ni mfano wa mzazi mzuri. Kuna watu wanaweza sema wanakazi wazazi kwa sababu nini, lakini kwetu mama yetu amekuwa a very good example ya mzazi ambaye anajali kwanza maisha yake, lakini zaidi anajali maisha ya watu wengine. Ametulea vizuri, hatuja kuwa na kelele naye. Hakuna mmoja katika familia yetu angesema mama alimfanyia anything negative ama kusema neno mbaya. Ametubariki. Na kama kuna mtu pengine angekuwa anafikiria otherwise, ni yule mtu anafikira ya kando, na hiyo ni yake, sio ya mzazi. Mama yetu ametulea vizuri, tunampongeza na tunampongeza Mwenyezi Mungu kwa ajili ya
Omwanchwa omorigereria kurwa asoroboti rwa bene kuruga bwase kaunti ya Machakos abwase banyareko bakurwa bosemia chinchira abantu babonete kuragira nabo igo obomenyo obuya na gwikiraga Omwanchwa omorigereria no tuguchigukorera omweri bw'omoroberi bw'Etorobini ritkoria rero igati yabari bane kinga omoroberi igango chora senchira ya bene kigmo Omwanchwa omorigereria nkwira ribageria bene gugwakira mbu ya mono kianda gikomi asogo chora gototengera kurwa andonsi asore mamake Ruth oyonyara kobaga otorigereria kura chinsemo chia Facebook agoteba ng'ani ga kurigereria omoroberi iga senchira bene kigma kurwa ensemo ya amabiria Teresa Omboka Teresa agoteba watching live kurwa Madhare North pamoja na Widhirisa Seriane Damaris Kemunto na bantu bonsi baria kimaye bosamaro na bego Kerandi Dennis Omosori Bwegesusu oyore gotonyora kuruchinsemo chia Nakuru City Salams Club na boigo Brigadier Anthony Ratemu nera ototebe agoteba nigari gutubwatia kuruchinsemo chia metamayo anyasore eyo agoteba agoso yabantu igatia Borispa Gwaro on Victor Omondi na boigo Salome Jane Moreka amona mashabiki abange Omwanchwa omorigereria kwirari bagaria bene nae gwakira ng'ambo ya mono kianda gikomi na ene kinga kogenderera kubwatia emeroberio ensoka senchera yo bwikirano na boigo na bogotonyora asenchera yemitandao yonsi yekerero kiro gwachirororo ene kinkwanyare ko bagotubwatia Ensoko TV oboroso bwomogusi bari bene kiri ogeriga nechibisha ngo gwikirarire asenchera ya bene kigima akoro kwa Tolde na boigo Joshua Nyauma na nchana kuganeri ogendere gutwara oborigererio boruya eria nenkoro kwa Linet Nyambane.